Yo, it's me, your crotch. I'm worried. Not about your web history. I'm feeling all funky down here. Next time we shower, use medicated Fungi Cure Wash. It kills jock itch and keeps me feeling shiny. Get Fungi Cure Wash at Walmart and Rite Aid.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Sin's Chat Corner. No, I'm not dead. I'm sure some of you have probably been very worried. Just a real quick recap before we have Deana come on the show. Obviously, if you're watching me on Facebook, you already know that clearly Kerwin has been having some very serious issues lately, which has prevented me from coming on air. And obviously, of course, prior to that, I was at Golden Door Film Festival. So I'm not trying to neglect y'all. I've just been terribly, terribly busy with a sick baby, and so I am back. And what better person to bring back on my first show after weeks on end would be Deana Martin. To those of you that may not know, Deana is more than just a singer. She is also an actress. She's also been involved in theater. She's a mother, she's a grandmother, she's a wife. Oh, and that little tiny side note, she, of course, is also the daughter to legendary Dean Martin. And if you follow me, you also know that Dean is on my page probably 17 times a week because he's one of my top 5 that I write to. So it is more than an honor and a pleasure to actually host Dean on the show today. So we're really, really looking forward to having her on. And without further ado, since she's on the line, let's start our interview. Hi, Deana.
How are you?
I am petrified. I'm not going to lie. I am terribly excited. I'm a Catholic, so I prayed this morning to your father, and I'm like, please don't haunt me if I don't do well today. So I'm very nervous.
I think I'm sure that he will answer your prayers, and I'm sure everything is going to be fabulous.
Well, I have to tell you before we start this interview, first of all, I have to say, and in all honesty, most of this interview is going to be about you. And that's not because I don't adore your father, but it's because I'm fascinated by you. I really am truly fascinated. I didn't know there was as much to you as there is, obviously. So I'd like to start, ironically, we'll start off with your book from 2004, which is Memories Are Made of This, Dean Martin Through Your Daughter's Eyes. What I find unique about your book, and I'm not going to lie to you, I've read most of it, but not all of it. Very raw, very real, very blunt, very open. So I have a question relative to that book. I can imagine it's a bit risque to go out to the public and kind of show them a different side of what we're used to of a Hollywood actor and a Hollywood family man. Was that challenging for you?
Was writing the book challenging for me, or growing up as the daughter of Dean Martin challenging?
Actually, you know what? Good question. Well, let's start with the first one. Obviously, in writing that book, as I said, because you're so candid, we don't always see that. Oftentimes, we have a version of what we believe a certain person to be, and you've been very honest and very open. So I'm just wondering, how was that for you? How was that whole experience?
Well, for me, it's something funny. If you talk to my husband, my handsome husband, John, he will say, if you ask Deana anything, she will just answer it honestly. I mean, that's who I am. He says probably it's not always a good idea, but that's who I am. If you ask me a question, I will answer it. And the thing is, in writing the book, I wanted to write memories are made of this, Dean Martin through his daughter's eyes. And I'm not speaking for anybody else. It's just for me and how it was for me growing up. And it's important for people to know that everybody they have ups and downs in their lives. And it's for me, I believe that I treated everybody respectfully and walked in other people's shoes. Because here we went through divorces and and separations and children, so there were ups and downs, and it's challenging. But above all, I think you see that I loved that I adored my father and all my moms and my brothers and sisters, and it was an unbelievable life. Still is. It goes on, and there's not a day that goes by that someone, when they meet me, if it's a new person and they're introduced to me and someone says, well, this is Deana Martin, and they look at me and they go, oh my God. It's any relation to Dean Martin. So, and he is so, prevalent today. And he was the king of cool, still is the king of cool. But it was a challenge writing the book. It was scary. It was joyful. It was sorrowful to have to go back and relive all those moments again. And, you know, as I say, you know, some were fantastic, some were just, oh, my God, you know, losing my brother, losing my sister, my mom, of course, you know, my dad. So it was, for me, it had to be truthful because it's the same relationship that everybody in the world has with their, you know, with their family. And we're just exactly like everybody else.
Look at that. Did you hear that, folks? We're just like everyone else. Well, except he's Dean Martin, and I'm his daughter, and I've led like the most wonderful life in the world. How cute. You're not quite like everyone else, my dear, but I'm sure you know that. Okay, next question for you. I had heard talk, because I know I've watched probably 100 interviews to prepare for today, so that I didn't ask you. Hopefully I'll ask you one or two questions you've never been asked. I'm curious because I know, of course, obviously, you're making a movie out of the book. I've already heard about Jennifer Love Hewitt, but I know you had made reference to, obviously, and I thought about it today. I'm like, who could play her dad? I'm like, who could play her dad? Oh, and miraculously, Deana says Johnny Depp, because I saw in an interview, or I'd heard that you had said Johnny Depp. So is it true? Is it real? Can it happen? Because I love him.
Wouldn't that be fantastic? Now, I have to say, because he is such an unbelievable actor. He is, and he can sing, he can move, and he's fantastic. I've always loved Johnny Depp. As we have gone through more of our meetings with Joe Mantegna and Bonnie Hunt, and people getting trying to get this together, we now know that Joe would like to play the older Dean, and Bonnie wants to. Yes, so what we have decided, and Bonnie is going to be directing, I believe, and also writing the screenplay. She's unbelievable.
Lovely.
I mean, you know, one of my favorite
Lovely.
people. I love her, and she has such respect and love for my dad, just as Joe, of course, and Joe played a fabulous Dean Martin in that Rat Pack movie. We have, as it has evolved, now, you know, Joe is, you know, considering playing the older Dean, and we intend on, because Bonnie said, you know, there are probably a lot of young, they don't even have to be Italian, but young, fabulous actors out there who might be able to fill that bill. And she, you know, so we all kind of came up with the idea we will have a major casting call to find out who could be the best, you know, young Dean. And I think that's an excellent idea. And, you know, because we could discover someone fabulous and new. There are so many great actors out there and singers that it's hard to fill the bill. Tall, dark, handsome, have that look in your eye, be so cool, be so charming and funny. So it's going to be tough, but you know, maybe we'll find someone who will do the best possible job.
Of course, absolutely. Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit, of course, because I want to let everybody know, and this I found amazingly lovely. The fact of the matter is you've done 4 different CDs, namely Volare, Memories Are Made of This, White Christmas, and, of course, the more recent, which is Destination Moon. Interesting fact, folks, not only can you get it on CD, ironically on vinyl, and what I find lovely about that is I owned a store less than a year ago, and I used to play your father's music on vinyl. And I thought to myself, whatever happened to the days of vinyl? And here you are.
And it's so beautiful. You know, I mean, of course, I grew up with albums, you know, with vinyl. And it was hysterical when I did my first vinyl, and I believe that the first one was Volare, and then White Christmas, and, of course, Destination Moon. But my grandson, who was very young, he said, wow, it's the biggest CD I've ever seen. You know, I'm thinking, okay, I've got to educate you. This is an album, and we have this phonograph record. This is a turntable. And, you know, and so that was kind of fun. But there's something so warm about vinyl records. You know, we have recorded them, and we do all the engineering and everything out at Capitol Studios. And we were in the booth with, oh gosh, I can't believe I just forgot his name. Ron McMaster. He does the mastering there, and we're mastering the records, the album, the CD. And I noticed all of his LPs around, and I said, "Oh my gosh, do you do this also?" He said, "Yes." And so he played a CD and then the vinyl, And just in his room at Capitol Studios, I said, oh, my God, we've got to do this, because it was a warmer, richer sound. And so that's why we put it on vinyl. And they're selling, which is really nice.
Oh, I imagine. Definitely, because all of us are, I believe most of the people that we know are old souls. I find that, amazingly important in today's society. And I wanted to share this with you before we get to the TV and the theater side of things, which is this. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, and you probably know very little about myself, but there's two things that you should know. About a year ago or so, I did a tribute show to Marilyn Monroe. She's like my thing. I did a 2-hour tribute show, and I'm going to be doing a 2-hour tribute show to your father. Not because he is Dean Martin and he's infamous, but because of the fact that you may not know this, but Dean Martin has been in my house over some of the best days I've ever had, some of the moments where my children have been ill, some of the moments where I couldn't write, where I couldn't finish a book. Your father's been very instrumental to me. So to pay him back, I'm going to do a tribute show. Second of all, I have a small request for you, if you would entertain it. I am making a film, and it's a black and white, and it's a silent film, and there is an entire scene that is going to be filled with, I want to say characters, your father, Frank Sinatra character. It's going to be all of these old-time musicians. I'm going to try to find someone who looks like your father, so I'm in kind of the same boat as you. And I was going to ask you, because I know that you act on occasion, and if I begged and I pleaded long and hard enough, I thought, wouldn't it be lovely to have Deana Martin in the middle of this silent film, and the only sound during the whole film would be you singing for 3 or 4 minutes?
I think it's a great idea, and we can put that together. That would be fun.
Oh,
and I will try and give you some ideas. So, but no, anything that is a, when we do it, to honor my father, and I think that people should honor their fathers, of course.
Yeah.
But for me, especially because I am Deana Martin, and for me to know that I was able to, sing that song "True Love" with him, and I have this beautiful video that I do in my show with the great pictures. It's an honor for me to be able to do that, and I would be happy because I know you do things, respectfully, and I know you do your homework. So that would be it would be a pleasure for me. So we will get together.
I just had goosebumps. I think I'm going to pass out and die right now, folks. You have no idea. You just don't even know how I'll be talking about this till like a month after I talk to you. But there are more surprises. So let's talk a minute about, these are two things that I want to bring to light to everybody that's listening in. And obviously you already know this to be true, my dear. But there's a lot of people that don't know this. And I'm not going to lie. I thought I knew everything about Dean Martin until I found these two facts out, folks. Not only is June 7th Dean Martin Day, there's actually a bill that was signed by the governor of Ohio, so June 7th is Dean Martin Day. Also in 2002, the historical marker that was actually placed in Ohio. I'd just like you to talk a little bit to the folks, obviously, because this is your family. I guess what I'm wondering is why do we not have remembrances like this everywhere? And maybe I'm just biased, but I can imagine how memorable and how wonderful this must feel.
It does, and it's funny that you should ask about that because it was just a fabulous moment in my life when we were able to do that. One day, my husband and I, we woke up and John said, "You know what? I think we should have a Dean Martin Day in Ohio." And I said, "Well, that would be great. We should have a Dean Martin Day there." So he called the governor's office and he asked him. He said, "What does it take? How do you How does one go about getting, say, a day for themselves or a Dean Martin Day in Ohio?" And the lady who answered the phone to John said, "Well, you have to change the Constitution of the Ohio State Constitution because there's nothing for that in the Constitution." So my husband said, "Well, okay, how do you change the Constitution?" And she said, "Well, you have to get senators to, come in on this, and there's a lot of work that you have to do to change the Constitution so that you can propose this bill." So my husband and I, we proceeded to contact the senators and people from Ohio, and we worked diligently. And I went. We wrote a speech, and we got Governor Taft, and I had many senators who they were all for it. And I went and I spoke at the House. I spoke, and I said, my bit. And I have to tell you, when we were there in the courthouse, in the State Building in Ohio, and all of the representatives who were there, they said, well, we have never, and it was with all the senators, they said, we have never, all of us agreed on one thing ever in our lives, but we are going to pass it. They all agreed right then. Then I went back a few months later, and we said the governor signed the bill. I have the pens that he used, and everybody stood up, and we sang That's Amore, and it was the most incredible thing. So then we were able to get the, what else did we do? As you saying, there's a big sign, and it says, the Dean Martin. And so it was unbelievable what we were able to accomplish. But you can do it. I never, personally, like if they had said to me, well, you have to change the Constitution, I would have said, oh, okay, thank you, goodbye. Not my husband. Sure. Okay? My husband says, okay, well, how do you change the Constitution? So that's what you have. These things can be done, but you have to call and talk to people and be persuasive. And also, Dean Martin, to Ohio, it's unbelievable. So we have our Dean Martin Day.
Oh, that is so lovely. See, folks, and we're learning something new by this show here, little by little. Now, there's some fun facts that I'd like to share with people listening in that may not know this. First of all, Deana was born in Manhattan, and if anybody listens to my show, they already know that New York City is my second home. So I'm very, very proud that one of my guests, of course, is from New York City. Obviously, of course, you mentioned your husband, John. So that's right, single folks of mine that want to ask her out on a date. Can't happen. She has a husband. 2 homes, one in L.A. and one in Branson, Missouri, as I understand it. I was curious to ask you, was there a reason for that? Does the performance schedule have a lot to do with that?
No. Well, kind of, because I originally thought that being in Branson, it would be easier than L.A. to get to Miami or New York or Chicago. I thought it was centrally located, and it would have been an easier flight schedule. However, from Branson, Missouri, we have to drive to Springfield, and from Springfield you fly to Chicago or Dallas or Atlanta. So it's always 2 to 3 flights. So that was not a wise decision on my part. But Branson, Missouri is so beautiful. And years ago, I had asked. You remember the Dean Martin show. And Les Brown, the Band of Renown, was the orchestra on the Dean Martin show. And years ago, I was going to perform. I had, about 5 shows to do in Florida, and we called Les Brown Jr. and asked him if he would like to have it would be Deana Martin and the Les Brown Band of Renown. So Les said, I think that would be fabulous. I thought that would be a great thing. Les Brown lives in Branson, Missouri, and his band is here. So he said, Deana and John, I think it'd be easier if you came to Branson than for me to bring my big band to L.A. So John and I came to Branson, and it was just so beautiful, and things worked out that I found this gorgeous house, and we ended up now we have a house here, and it is gorgeous, and the people are wonderful, and I can just come here and chill out. And I have a gym, and I have my studio, and as I say, the people are just wonderful. I don't work here; I just chill out here.
Exactly, and I'm going to tell you right now, folks, to those that have not seen her before, because I've seen her pictures, I've researched her up, down, and sideways. This much I can share with you, and again, I'm sure you've heard this before. Maybe you haven't. I've watched your performances a number of times. I can tell you right now that you're distinctively different from your father, and I hope that that's a compliment to you because I already adore him. But I didn't know what to expect when I really didn't. I mean, I went through video after video, and I'm thinking, all right, well, let's see if she can sing like her father. And then by the end of the time, I was thinking to myself, no. It's not about you singing like him. It's the fact that, I don't know if you know this or not, but oftentimes when your performances, it appears as though you're singing right to him or for him. And I found that very interesting. Your head movements are very similar to his. And you have the wit and panache that he did. Now, the beauty is another thing, folks, because let me tell you, she's a knockout. The girl looks like she's about 40. And I know how old she is, and we're not going to talk about that because we don't do that on my show.
Thank you.
Those are the things that just an average, ordinary individual, well, I'd like to consider myself that, do. And I want to share this quote that you said before. And I cried when I read this, and I'm not going to lie. you have said once, and probably more than once, a long time ago I realized I was Dean Martin's daughter, but he was everyone's Dean Martin, and I have to share him. And, of course, that made me cry because I thought, my goodness, how very down-to-earth and lovely is this lady that she is willing to share such a big part of her life with all of the rest of us for as long as we could have him, which I thought was just lovely. But I want you to tell folks, can you tell us about your card room and the significance to why you have a card room in your house?
Oh, my card room, it is so beautiful. Well, first of all, we would have cards because, my dad loved to play cards. And he had those huge hands, and he could hide cards in his hands. But he used to be, a dealer. But he would have so much fun when he would go to Vegas, and he would, after a show, he and Frank would go out and they would deal cards, and they would, of course, let all the women, all the pretty women, even if they went over 21, they would still win. So we got winners here. But in my card room, I have a chair. I have the chair, and I don't know if this is what you're speaking of, but when my dad passed away, he used to go on every Sunday night to Hamburger Hamlet. And the Hamburger Hamlet in Beverly Hills, which was right down it's the corner from where I have our condo, where actually my grandmother had lived there first. And there was a chair that my dad used to sit in every Sunday night. And it's a big tufted red leather chair with gold for the studs in them. And when my dad passed away, John called the manager and said, please put Dean's chair away because I want to give it to Deana. And so they put Dad's chair away, and after about a month or so, I'm trying to think how long it was, but we had a party for Dad and for everybody because he was as I say, he was there every Sunday night, and he became friends with everyone, and we went back and had a little bit of a party for him, and that's when they gave me the chair that my dad sat in. There was a little plaque that it was and it said Dean Martin on it. So we it's now in my den here in Branson, along with a lot of the other mementos that I got from Dad, next a bench that I received, and pillows, and these sconces that are antlers, and the room is just beautiful. And I also inherited this beautiful mirror that says Dino's Bar, and so it's my card room. It's when I walk in there, and I have all of the trophies that I have from Dad, and all of his gold records and albums on the wall, platinum, and so it's so meaningful to me to have that chair. So. Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And I also read, of course, obviously, that I recall you saying that you used to play cards when you were younger, almost as if it was soothing to you. Meaning, obviously, we all have our life circumstances, mothers, fathers, separation, things like that. So I thought it'd be a neat little point to reference here. Okay, so I have two questions for you because I know that your time is limited today. So I'm sure that you don't know this, but I've mentioned this to your publicist. I'm working very diligently because I noticed that you're not scheduled to come to Wisconsin, Chicago, New York, or California anytime soon. So I thought I'd take it upon myself to call my friends up and say, can we bring Deana here to sing? So I was hoping, with any luck at all, I'll get you at one of 4 places because I have a selfish desire. I'd like to interview you in person because I just want to see the woman you are. A lot of my New York friends have said that they've met you, and they've said that you are nothing short of brilliant and beautiful. So it behooves me to know you, not necessarily because of your father, but because you are who you are. You've made a substantial mark in the world. Your father, yes, played a part in that, but you're just so lovely. I don't even know how else to describe you. And this is the words of many, many people, mind you. So I'd love to interview you live. So I'm trying to book you a gig so we can bring you here. Okay.
And then I could beg you and say, will you please sign my book? Please autograph this book. Because what I'm going to be doing is, and I'm sure you haven't heard this yet, I review things for a living. I review independent film. I review TV. I deal with actors all the time. And I would love to, if you don't mind, when I completely finish the book, doing a lovely write-up or a review of it. I think that the world has forgotten this era, not necessarily in part, but nowadays things have become traditionally so very different in the world. Singers and entertainment, old Hollywood is kind of disappearing, and the main reason I wanted you here is because you're very representative of that in every manner, shape, or form. And we need to treasure people like yourself. You're a living, breathing reminder of that era, of your father, of the beautiful music, and you have a beautiful voice. Listen to me. I'm doing my whole ending story here because we're down to our last 5 minutes. I know I'm gushing like, oh, I love her. But no, she does. But I wanted to know all of that.
So
I don't want to.
Here's what I want to say now. I have to, I will be coming to New York, and I would love to do that. In Wisconsin, I'm trying to think when I'm trying to see when we're coming. Let's see, when am I? I'm looking. Well, I don't have my whole schedule here, but even if it's a private event or something, and I can even tell you, and I will come and we'll do a nice sit down interview. But for
I think that would be lovely.
2017 that's when I'm hoping that the movie comes out. But I'm also doing a documentary right now on Dean Martin, and so that's I'm working on a new album, on the documentary, and we have fabulous people who have said that they would love to be interviewed for it. So that's what I'm working on right now. So I will be in New York, I will be in LA, and in Las Vegas. We'll be interviewing the Bob Newharts and you name it. So we are doing that.
I'm certain.
So I'm sure that I will be around you at some point. But thank you for all of those.
I can come to me.
Beautiful things that you said, and also I would love for you to review the book. It's such a good book, and it means so much to me. And wherever I go, all over the world, when people come up to me and they say, some say I just read your book, or I read your book, 10 years ago, and it has changed my life. And this could be an 18-year-old woman, or a 75-year-old man, or a 30-year-old. It appeals to all ages. It's not just for Dean Martin fans. It's a book about life and a father and daughter and everything that goes through that you go through in your life. So I would love for you
very touching. I would love to. I mean, it would be a complete honor for me. I mean, I think it would be amazing, and I won't make you come to Wisconsin. I didn't realize you were coming to New York. I go to New York, actually, all the time, and it's too bad that we can't match our schedules. I'm actually doing a photo shoot with New York City filmmakers. They're going to be in a calendar with me, and we're shooting at the places that Marilyn Monroe was. So it's a very classy, old-time black and white calendar shoot. Very excited. So we'll hook up in New York City as far as that goes. I don't want to forget to remind everybody, www.DeanaMartin.com is the website, of course. DeanMartin.com would be somebody we both know. That would be Dean Martin's website. You can also find her on Facebook. She has both a personal page and a singer page. She's on Google+, Goodreads, Barnes & Noble, YouTube, Pandora, IMDb, iTunes, and Amazon. Did I miss anything? I hope not.
I don't think so. I think you've got it all, and I have to say it's an honor for me to be able to sing these songs, to do this work, because he was amazing. But for you and what you have done, thank you for keeping all of this alive. This is it's so important. When you talked about old Hollywood, and this times have changed, and people really have to put in their they've got to get out there and work. Right now, people can be an overnight success, when they're on YouTube or whatever it is. But if they go back and really work at their craft, they will have longevity. And it's an important, paying your dues, I think, is very, very important.
Exactly.
And that's what I have been doing. And I learned that from my dad, although I have to say he made it all look so easy, and it's not. but he made it.
Of course not.
He made it look he had that wonderful way about him. But it's hard work, but it's so worth it, because it's the music, keeping this music alive, and also doing my own music, but showing people the timeless classic music and era, of course, that we should never let go, ever.
Oh my goodness!
So thank you for your work.
At me now. My goodness. No, not at all. And in fact, once I finish up, I'm going to send a lovely note off to your publicist, so she has the information, so we can kind of coordinate as far as the tribute show. If you want to participate in that, that'll be a call-in show. The movie, we can get that coordinated. And I had one question to ask you, because I know, of course, at one point in time you had stopped working to take care of your son. I have
Yes.
a very similar situation, very similar, and wanted to ask you a question. But I'll ask you off air because they're about to cut us off here, and I know you've got to go. Thank you.
Yes.
From the
All right.
bottom
Thank
of my
you.
heart. Thank you.
This was wonderful.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Not a problem. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Now, what was that you wanted to ask me?
I will send the question off there. They're going to cut off my airtime show here thing. I'll send it off to I'll send off my telephone number, and maybe you can give me a buzz or I could call you. All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
dear.
I've got to go pack. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.